What's going on, and welcome to the Solo Shot. My name is Tom Vecchio. We have a 6-game MLB slate tonight. It starts at 7:05. As always, this is one of the many shows on the FanDuel Podcast Network. You can find that anywhere, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Spotify. The video version can be found on the FanDuel YouTube page. It also can be found on FanDuel TV Plus and FanDuel.com/watch. Before we hop into things, get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. That's if you're in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, or Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT if you are in Indiana. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. If you're in Louisiana, call 1-877-770-STOP. If you're in Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia. Call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. NFL Sunday Ticket offer ends September 18th, 23. No refunds, terms, and embargoes apply. $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket, not YouTube TV. YouTube TV base plan required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and current form of payment. Commercial use excluded. All right, let's jump into tonight's smaller 6-game MLB slate. Again, lock is set for 7:05. When it comes to weather tonight, we are 100% free from rain, but as we saw last night, it's much of the same tonight in terms of very favorable hitting conditions in New York for the Yankees at home hosting the Tigers, the Nationals at home hosting the Mets, the Braves at home hosting the Cardinals, and then Kansas City would probably be fourth on that list hosting the White Sox. Hot, a little bit of wind blowing out. Really should be another slate where we see a lot of offense as we saw last night. So pretty easy stuff there. Let's jump right into the pitching, and tonight's pitching slate is really, really straightforward, where Spencer Strider at $12,300 comes in as the most expensive option, and he's by far the #1 pitcher on tonight's slate. Max Scherzer is here at 10.4. Justin Verlander is here at 9.5. Scherzer and Verlander are going up against each other for Texas and Houston, respectively. And then Clark Schmidt is here at 8,800. Kyle Gibson at 86. So it's a pretty wide drop off in terms of salary. It's Strider at 12.3. Then the fourth most expensive option is Clark Schmidt at 8,800. When it comes to these options, Spencer Strider is by far the best pitcher on tonight's slate, and it's really not particularly close. He comes in with a 38% strikeout rate this season, a 7.6% walk rate, only allowing 1.07 home runs per 9. Strider is, of course, elite with a 2.76 skill interactive ERA, his Sierra. He does allow a 45.5% fly ball rate, which we don't love, but he has a 51.2% medium contact rate. So he does allow some fly balls, but he's not allowing them to be hard contact, thus keeping the home runs low. As I said, only 1.07 this season. But mainly, that 38% strikeout rate can't be touched by any other pitcher on tonight's slate. So the question becomes, really from a lineup construction standpoint, where do we want to be going? Because Strider has the most upside out of any pitcher on tonight's slate. Scherzer is here. Yes. Verlander is here. Yes. They're both good options, but relatively speaking, I'm not thrilled, or I'm never thrilled to be rostering a pitcher going up against Houston, as we saw last night, scoring 14 runs or whatever it was, Jose Altuve having 3 home runs. I'm never thrilled to be rostering a pitcher going up against Houston. And on the other side, I'm never thrilled to be rostering a pitcher going up against Texas this season. Now, if I had to choose between the two, I would go with Scherzer. He has a 28.8% strikeout rate this season, which is certainly very solid, and it's just factually higher compared to Verlander, who's at 21.0%. So if I'm shooting for the upside, it would be with Scherzer. But realistically, if I'm going to be spending over 10K, I just want to find that salary to get up to Spencer Strider. So that's the route that I'm going to be going in. And I'm not really too worried about the Cardinals offense overall. They come under the 21.2% strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching with their current active roster. That's 21st in the league. So yes, they're not a super, heavy strikeout team, but I will take a 38% strikeout rate from Spencer Strider, who again is the clear best pitcher on tonight's slate. Then it's a bit of a toss-up if you want to go to Scherzer, if you want to go to Verlander, just because you don't think they're going to be as popular compared to Strider. Everyone's going to be trying to spend up the salary for him, and thus Scherzer and Verlander, one of them go a bit overlooked. I would generally lean towards Scherzer in that circumstance. However, we do have Clark Schmidt here at 8,800, and he's certainly an interesting option tonight. He's been looking solid in some of these recent starts, and realistically, the matchup going up against Detroit is one that we love. Schmidt comes in with a 22.7% strikeout rate this season, a 6.5% walk rate. He's allowing 1.34 home runs per 9, which is okay. His 4.15 Sierra, again, is okay. That's why he's, sub 9K. Like, he's not an amazing pitcher, but he's good enough. But more importantly, it's more of the matchup that we like going up against the Tigers. Right now, the Tigers, with their current active roster, they come in with a 24.4% strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching, which is the 7th worst in the league. We also see them coming in with an 86 WRC+, which is 29th in the league. So yeah, this is truly a plus matchup for Clark Schmidt, who saw them just last week. He didn't go super deep in the game, but he did rack up a few strikeouts. It's kind of where we were, last week. It's going to be the same situation for Schmidt tonight. And really, the salary relief that he brings is pretty solid, especially when we're only dealing with a 6-game slate where there's not a ton of options out there. The same can be said about Kyle Gibson. And, what I'm going to say about Kyle Gibson is basically the same thing that I said about, Dean Creamer last night for Baltimore going up against the Angels, where he's not overly expensive. He's going up against a team in the Angels that are just factually super weak right now. We know that Trout is out. We're still waiting on news for Ohtani. The Angels right now, they come in with a 25.3% strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching with their current active roster. That's the 3rd worst in the league. So it's no doubt a great matchup for Kyle Gibson, who in himself isn't a big strikeout pitcher by any means, with a 19.8% strikeout rate, which is below the league average. But what he does so well is that he has a 48.7% ground ball rate and a 54.6% medium contact rate. So he's really not getting hit too hard. He has a 4.35 skill interactive ERA, and he's only allowing 1.05 home runs per 9. So he's a pitcher that he does have a clear plus matchup when it comes to the strikeout potential. He's never going to have a ton of strikeout potential in his own right on the mound, but the matchup is awesome. He doesn't necessarily allow a ton of damage because of the medium contact rate and the ground ball rate, and he's facing a lineup that's pretty weak right now. So if we're ranking these pitchers, Strider has to be the number one because he is the best pitcher on tonight's slate. That's not really up for debate. 38% strikeout rate can't be touched by anyone. Scherzer with a 28% strikeout rate is certainly solid, but again, I don't love attacking Houston, with a pitcher. Same thing for Verlander. And Verlander has a far lower strikeout rate at 21% compared to Scherzer or Strider. And again, I'm not super interested in going up against Texas. I know they haven't been super consistent, in the past few weeks as they were at the beginning portion of the season, but again, still not my favorite spot. That would push me towards Clark Schmidt or Kyle Gibson simply for the salary relief. And this is only, if you're rolling with multiple lineups. If you're running the one lineup, Strider is the answer tonight. So pitching is, despite it being only 6 games, is relatively interesting because there's a number of different ways we can be attacking things. So yeah, roll with Strider as your number one. Let's move on to stacks for tonight's slate. We have Atlanta tonight. They didn't necessarily get it done last night, but I do like them in a bounce back spot going up against Dakota Hudson for the St. Louis Cardinals. Again, don't necessarily love touching on, the Braves, the Dodgers, like too much. teams like that, when there's a game at Coors Field, it's not necessarily something I love to, go super in depth on just because they're kind of givens. Dakota Hudson, 13.9% strikeout rate, 1.13 home runs per nine, 8.9% walk rate. It's just not like a pitcher I'm super, super worried about, and I'll just take the offense for the Braves in a bit of a bounce back spot. It's really as simple as that. So give me some Braves hitters as usual. Load up on any of them that you can afford, obviously, depending on what you're doing pitching. Get up to Acuna, Olsen, Murphy, Riley, Ozuna, Harris. The list goes on and on for the Braves. Get any of them in your lineup that you can afford. It's really as simple as that. Then there are, 3 of 4 other pitchers that we could be looking to attack. As I said, there are some pretty favorable hitting additions in both New York for the Yankees at home, hosting Detroit, and then the Nationals at home hosting the Mets. And, the Mets got it done last night against Patrick Corbin. I think they can get it done again tonight going up against Johan Adon. This is a pitcher that we don't need to be worried about and really should be actively looking to, attack when he's on the mound. 1.55 home runs per 9 allowed, a 39.8% hard contact rate, and a 44.8% fly ball rate is not a good mix. He comes in with a 4.60 Sierra. His walk rate's only a 5.8%, which is certainly very solid, but a 90% strikeout rate is nothing that I'm too worried about. He's not a pitcher that can really, pitch himself out of trouble. And, we see a 2.53 BABIP this season, which is batting average of balls in play. That is better than the league average. And realistically, he is due for some negative regression towards the league average. And, the Mets are a lineup that, they have some pop in their lineup, as we saw last night. I think they can get the ball rolling in terms of Adon's negative regression in terms of BABIP. They could get that going tonight. And it's probably going to be much of the same last night. Alonso went deep last night. It's certainly good to see. And I think I'll be rolling with many of the same players. And, maybe, I talked about DJ Stewart last night. He didn't make the starting lineup. And, if he's going to be in there tonight, I'll certainly take that. He is a 373 ISO this season, or at least with the Mets, smaller sample size, but at least with the Mets this season, he has a 373 ISO versus right-handed pitching, which is absolutely awesome. I'll roll with Nimmo, Alonso, Alvarez had a homer last night, Lindor. I'll roll with all these players yet again. And, frankly, I think that they're a good team to be stacking because we have a mix of salaries that we can be getting to in the lineup. Yes, Alonso at $4,000, Francisco Lindor at $3,700 are on the more expensive end, but you drop a little bit further down, we can be getting some nice salary relief into the lineup. Jeff McNeil's only $2,900. Alvarez had a home run last night. He's $2,700. DJ Stewart is $2,600, depending if he's in the lineup or not. We can mix and match some of these Mets hitters that are ultimately in a great spot. And again, as I said, it's hot there. The wind's blowing out. I think we're going to be in another game where we could be seeing some offense. And on the flip side, I think going to some of the Nationals hitters going up against Jose Butto for the Mets should be just as good. The Mets, the bullpen, I'm not really worried about that overall. Butto, again, young pitcher. I think we'd be relatively comfortable going to some of the Nationals hitters, which may not be the first priority for a lot of people, but again, they're affordable. We can mix and match them, especially when we're trying to pay up for Strider, who's so expensive, over $12,000. We're going to need the salary relief, and we want these hitters that are sub $3,000. So I'll roll with some Nationals hitters tonight. Lane Thomas, he's day to day. If he's not making the lineup, that's certainly fine. But CJ Abrams, you could certainly look to get into the lineup. Carter Keyboom, whoever makes the lineup for them, I'll certainly be slightly interested, depending on their salaries and, of course, their spots in the lineup. We also could be looking to the Yankees, who are going up against Matt Manning for the Detroit Tigers. Manning comes in with a very low 15.8% strikeout rate, 1.29 home runs per 9 allowed. He has a 5.14 scale interactive ERA. He has a 47.2% fly ball rate this season, along with a 39% hard contact rate. None of that is good to see, especially in a stadium like Yankee Stadium that is hitter-friendly, along with the favorable hitting weather that we have there. All of this lines up to be a good spot for the Yankees, who are seemingly getting a little bit hot over the last 10 days, 2 weeks or so. They won 3 out of 4 against Detroit last week. They swept Houston, and then, they're coming off a win last night. They have, decent amount of power in their lineup. Jason Dominguez obviously being called up. We could certainly look to him. Aaron Judge with a 340 ISO this season versus righties. He's always a threat for not just one, but 2 home runs. Stanton had a home run last night. Gleyber Torres is looking hot as of late. DJ LeMahieu is popping off some home runs as of late. Like, this is a team that I think we can be looking to stack tonight, especially against Matt Manning. Again, with that fly ball rate and the hard contact rate with the hitting weather in a stadium as they have at Yankee Stadium, it's pretty good. And frankly, none of these hitters outside of Aaron Judge are super, super expensive. Aaron Judge is up at 4.2. Dominguez is 3.5. Glaber's 3.3. And then it drops immediately to Stanton, who's below 3,000 at 2,900, and LeMahieu's 2,800. So again, depending on what you're doing with pitching, depending on what you're doing with the other stacks, the Yankees could be somewhat of a filler stack, mixing and matching some of their lower salary players. We also could be seeing Austin Wells in the lineup tonight. He's 2,400, their newly called up catcher, along with Jason Dominguez. They were both called up at the same time. 2,400 for Austin Wells is another player to keep an eye on tonight. And then finally, want to touch on the Chicago White Sox. In offense, I know most people probably aren't like super thrilled to like get exposure to, but we saw it last night where they put up a bunch of runs. Kansas City put up a bunch of runs. It's great hitting weather. It's kind of just bad pitching staffs on both sides. I would not be surprised to see a whole lot of runs again tonight. Jordan Lyles is on the mound for the Kansas City Royals, a pitcher we should be excited to see when he's on the slate. This season, he's allowing a 524 slugging to lefties, a 488 slugging to righties. He's allowing 2.15 home runs per 9 to lefties, 1.92 home runs per 9 to righties. Absolutely awesome to see when we have hitters going up against them. A 50.8% fly ball rate to righties and a 47.5% fly ball rate to lefties. This is absolutely awesome. Now, yes, the White Sox aren't a team that have performed this season, whatever it might be, and their lineup is factually weaker, specifically with Luis Robert not being in. He's missed a few games here or there. But the salary relief that they bring is absolutely undeniable tonight. And realistically, they might be a kind of key secondary team tonight because of what we're trying to do with pitching, which is probably pay up for Strider, who's over 12,000. If Robert does not make the lineup, he's 3,700 tonight. If he does not play, he's missed a few games. That means Eloy Jimenez at 2,800 is the most expensive hitter on the White Sox. That means you can get an entire White Sox stack going up against Jordan Lyles with solid hitting weather in Kansas City. Every single player will be below 3K tonight. This is what we need when it comes to filling in our lineups. We want to pay up for some of the Braves hitters. We want to pay up for Spencer Strider. We need salary relief, especially on a 6-game slate where we're not dealing with a whole lot of options. This is a lineup that we could, or realistically do need, and we do need some of these players to kind of, fill out the rest of our lineup and ultimately a great stack. So I would love to see Robert in the lineup just because it makes it that much more dangerous. And, he has plenty of home run upside in his own right. But if he is not there, we're getting a ton of salary relief. And yes, these players don't have as much power compared to Robert with his 288 ISO versus righties. I would love to see that. But could you look to Andrew Vaughn? Could you look to Jimenez? Yes, of course. Andrew Benintendi doesn't bring a ton of power to the lineup, but he gets on base, which we love to see. He has a 307 WOBA this season versus righties, which isn't jumping off the page. But if we're taking him as part of a stack, I'll certainly look to get Benintendi in there. I'll look to get Vaughn. I'll look to get Jimenez in there. And that should be a pretty solid salary relief stack for the White Sox tonight, who are ultimately in a very, very, very favorable spot. All right, so let's move on to dinger calls to close out the slate. It's smaller, only 6 games. Pretty straightforward stuff in terms of who we should be looking at for home runs. We have some, again, very, very easy matchups, very, very favorable hitting conditions for a lot of these players. Aaron Judge is the easy answer tonight. Just going up against Matt Manning. The fly ball rate for Manning, the power that Judge has with an over 300 ISO versus righties this season is undeniable. I think we absolutely want to be looking there. And then for a bit of a longer shot, going to be going with Michael Harris of the Atlanta Braves. Power up and down their lineup. And, frankly, when hitters get on base for the Braves, it's not like pitchers can pitch around them just because there's so many other power hitters coming up after them. So, I'll take Harris in just an awesome lineup who's on fire at the plate. He doesn't necessarily have a ton of home runs lately, but he's putting the ball in play each and every night, which I absolutely love to see. So I will take Harris as a bit of a longer shot, and Aaron Judge is kind of the easy answer for a homer tonight. All right, so that does it for today's podcast. As always, can be found on Apple, it can be found on Apple Podcasts, it can be found on Spotify. The video version can be found on the FanDuel YouTube page. It can be found on FanDuel TV Plus. It can be found on FanDuel.com/watch. You can follow me on Twitter at Tom_Vecchio1. And until next time, good luck in your contests.